Alright, is OpenShot gonna mess up my voice again? Hello everyone, and welcome to half a devlog, half a tutorial on the map generation in Stoink, my own little personal project. Basically how this is going to work is, first I'm going to fast forward through the basic notions that is behind the map generation used into Stoink, and then go into more of the specifics. If you want to learn more about Perlin Noise before we start this, you might want to head to this website, Red Blob Games. I'm going to link it down below in the resources, and it's going to run you through how to make maps with noise functions. And what I'm going to be doing is going from that and then showing you how I adapted it to the specific needs of Stoink. So the first element in the map generation is actually working with marching squares. And the way marching squares work is pretty much you have your noise function here, which gives you this cloud, and you overlay a grid on top of it. And what you want to see is at the corners, if the value is 1 or 0, 1 being you're inside the maze, 0 being you're outside of the maze. And the way you do this is you actually set a threshold. So depending on the values that you want inside, if you set your threshold to be lower, you'll see that you'll have a lot more areas which are going to be inside of the maze, and if you set it higher, you'll have more dense walls. So you basically play around with this in order to reach a perfect value. But now you must be asking yourself, well, what do you do with these values? So what you want to do with these values, actually, I prepared some sprites over here, and basically, you want to declare if a square is inside or outside of the map. So let's say here, this corner is inside, so you'll be wanting to draw a little wall over here. And you can make it smaller or larger, depending on how dense you want your wall to be. And if you have multiple dots that are actually inside of the maze, you see that they connect, and then you have a path that goes through. If you want to visualize this a bit easier, you basically apply a value of 1, 2, 4, and 8 to every corner. So that way, when you go through them, seeing 1 is inside, so the square has a value of 1. Then it has 2, 3, 4, and so on. So that's basically how marching squares work. Then you can map this to the value of your squares that you calculate by generating your array, and you're good to go. So now I think we can actually drop into Unity over here. So here we have a maze generator on the right, and if we go through the various fields, you have the dimensions, which is basically an array of the size depending on the levels. You have the drawer configs, which is pretty much what tile set to use starting at which level. So that's pretty basic stuff. The far side thing needs to be moved out. But the interesting part is actually the pipeline here, because the way I'm working is basically you get some noise, you apply some post processes to it, and boom, you got a maze. So the post processes are a range of different functions I can actually apply to my noise, and that's where it gets interesting. So there are actually two types of post processes. Some work on the raw value of the noise and the other one on the threshold value of the noise. So for the value of the noise, we're going to take an example from the random spot generator. And basically what this does is imagine you're stamping on your terrain to make the noise clearer. So if we have a visual example over here, let's say I have a white brush of 21% opacity, and I'm just going to add this to the noise. And you see, it's actually adding more area inside of my maze, and it just does that randomly a bit everywhere to open it up a bit more. So from that, if we drop back into Unity, we're going to mess with the values a bit. So right now, I believe it is set to be sort of sane. So if we generate, yeah, you can see we have a maze. It's sort of open, but it's not, too open or anything. But if we have fun and we crank up the values over here, so you can see we have like the number of spots that are going to be added to the map. Let's just mess with the strength of the spots, and let's make it, we'll make it fixed at 0.5. And we're probably going to have a maze that's going to be pretty open from there. So we're going to generate a level 9 again. And yeah, you can see that's a pretty open configuration. At the same time, we can do the exact opposite and actually go to our generator, and you know what? Random spots, you're fired. And now we should have mazes that are actually a lot more closed. As you can see, there's a lot more walls that are appearing there. And the fact that it's in the post process, it allows you to completely decouple that from your maze generation. So you can reuse it for multiple mazes, you can tweak it easier, you can pinpoint your tests on them. So it's actually pretty convenient when working with separate parts. The next part of interest is actually going to be more on the post processes that act on the values themselves. So if we want to do that, maybe I can crank these down and stop removing all the thin walls in order for us to be able to generate doors. I'm going to save that. Let's stay level 9 because I love level 9. And you can see, boom, we have doors that are appearing. And in order for a door to appear, there actually needs to be a wall first for it to, destroy it. Because I'm not just going to decide that a corridor needs a door. Nah. I want to break a wall and put a door there. That's how it works. That's how you build a house. You build the whole wall, then you break it down and you put a door. I don't think that's the best analogy. Moving on. So in other cases, you're actually just looking for an open spot. So you go through your arrays of in-out values, and you find some nice little spots for these spiky boys. And then you want some pointy boys on the wall? Well, you look for places where it's out here and it's in here, and it even tells you the direction to put them. Wow, that's kind of nice. Oh, and if we want to look at something a bit more specific, do I have a spinner somewhere? I'll zoom out. Come on, mouse, help me out over here. No spinners. Oh, gosh. Okay, let's spam generate till I get a spinner. Spinner. Where are you, spinner? Oh, this is going to take a while. Is it? Gosh darn bloopers. I want my spinner. I'm gonna fast forward this, am I? Yeah. Alright, so we're a few minutes into the future. Turns out that I actually had a spinner starting right from the get-go. I just wasn't looking for it the right way. Because spinners usually have blades that spawn, but they're made at runtime. So yeah, my eyes didn't catch on to that. So basically, the spinner. One of the parameters actually for the spinner is the value that's surrounding it. So in this configuration, you need actually to have a value of 2. What I mean by that is looking at the orthogonal directions, you need to have at least 2 empty spots in order to be able to put a spinner there. So you need the middle spot to be free and then 2 extra spots around it. So it could be in the corner here. And that's to prevent some pretty difficult spots such as here where you'd have a spinner and you'd be stuck like going through there and you're like, oh my god, how am I going to make it through this? And we're pretty lucky here because there's no wall spikes to kill us, but if there are wall spikes or floor spikes, we're kind of done. So yeah, just playing around with these values and things like that in order to put everything down on the map. And now I'm going to show you a bit how I try to balance this. And that's the part where if you're a game designer, you might want to block your ears or maybe, unplug your headphones. Because I'm actually using an Excel sheet to do that. Yeah, I know, it's terrible, but I was tired of, entering the values inside Unity. So basically how it works, I gave an ID to pretty much everything over here. I assigned a difficulty score to help me estimate how wicked the map would be. And then I just fill out the values with the, odds of removing thin walls, of placing doors, and how many consumables there are, how many rewards there are. And then I just have, a bunch of traps. And then you get the total difficulty for the map, but also the difficulty per density. Because if you have, 1,000 traps into a 10 by 10 floor, it's pretty much, it's pretty much hell compared to, 10,000 maps in a 10,000 by 10,000 maze, which I don't do because that would probably blow up your RAM because my code is bad. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the balancing part with the numbers. And what I do is I actually have a value setter over here. Let's go to the easy, yeah, easy value setter, and I just drag and drop my post processes here, click on populate, and it updates all the values from the CSV. So yeah, pretty handy stuff if you ask me. So that was just a quick overview of how I handled map generation uh, with Unity and using the Perlin Noise and the marching squares. At first, I wasn't totally sold on the post-processes part because I tried reusing parts a lot between maps, and it was getting kind of hard to actually balance the game. But once I actually separated them by difficulties and added the little tool to parse them from a CSV, it actually became really, really fun to use because at some points I would just, add more traps or remove elements from a map. And from a design perspective, I'm looking into the future prospects of this game, and I can see how easy it's going to be to add other game modes because let's say, placing the player, well, that's a post process on my map, so I just change it to give it different rules, or like I add a post process to make sure that you actually have a clear path from the beginning part to the final flag that you need to reach. So by keeping all this design space open, uh, it actually made life easier working with map generation. So yeah, I'm gonna leave some links down below in the description. If you want to help me out, my game is in early access on itch. The link is going to be there. Of course, I'm going to leave the Red Blob Games link over there. And of course, thumbs up this video if you liked it. Thumbs it down if you hated it, and tell me why in the comments down below. And yeah, for today, I am out.